Apparently, witch hunt and presidential harassment are no longer good enough phrases for Donald Trump to describe a legal, constitutionally enshrined process called an impeachment inquiry. So Donald Trump is switching to racialized language, now calling the impeachment inquiry a lynching. This happened in yet another completely unhinged, uncontrolled, unfettered Twitter rant. Check it out in its full glory. Donald Trump tweeting, quote, "So someday, if a Democrat becomes president and the Republicans win the House, even by a tiny margin, they can impeach the president without due process or fairness or any legal rights. All Republicans must remember what they are witnessing here, a lynching, but we will win." Some kind of white billionaire lynching, I guess, is what we are seeing here. Also just referred to as the proper consequences to the actions of Donald Trump. So there's a lot of stuff here. I mean, every element of this tweet is very dumb. The lynching piece is maybe the most absurd, but let's go through it one by one. I mean, Trump says there's no due process. If anyone is interfering with due process, it's Donald Trump and the people working for Trump who are ignoring legal congressional subpoenas. Yesterday, I told you about 8 congressional subpoenas that are overdue. And that there may be no consequences for. That's interfering with due process. But more importantly, and this is a really important thing to understand, the due process piece comes if and when the House of Representatives decides to actually argue for the impeachment and removal of Donald Trump. And there will be due process. The House of Representatives will make that case, and ultimately the Senate will vote as to whether to convict Donald Trump on impeachment, on the allegations contained within the eventual impeachment articles. That is due process. This is just an inquiry, okay? And I saw there was actually, I forget who it was, but there was a reporter on CNN in the last 24 hours who did, it might have been John Berman, who did a good job of not letting whoever the Trump official was play games with this, because due process is not an issue right now. It is merely an inquiry at this point in time. Due process will apply if and when impeachment is carried on and the Senate gets to vote. So Trump saying there's no due process, that's not true. He's the one interfering with due process. Now, the question of fairness that Trump brings up is sort of a laughable one. But if we want to talk about fairness, in a fair world, in a properly functioning world, Donald Trump would have been removed from office a while ago for his endless violations of the Emoluments Clause and money laundering, putting aside all other issues. In terms of legal rights, I don't even know what Trump is talking about. Impeachment is something that the House has always had the power to do. Republicans threatened Obama with impeachment. They knew Obama didn't actually do anything to justify impeachment. And then in comes Trump brown-noser Lindsey Graham after Trump uses the word lynching, the Republican senator from South Carolina. And he also says that it's a lynching, albeit a political one, saying it's a political lynching in every sense. So I actually think it's not that useful to focus on Trump's use of this racialized word lynching. And there's a couple reasons why. One is, if Trump is deliberately trying to trigger the left by using a racialized term, lynching, of course, referring to the hanging of Black Americans at different points in the history of the United States. If Trump is deliberately trying to trigger the left, it's not useful to take the bait. If Trump is using the term metaphorically or whatever, although Donald Trump has not shown any evidence that he can think metaphorically, it's also important not to go crazy around the term because, yeah, I mean, listen, Trump being racially insensitive is not a new thing. But as soon as the lynching term started becoming the topic of discussion, people pointed out that Joe Biden used the phrase also in a non-literal context during the 90s. And then Joe Biden had to come out and say, well, listen, the difference is I recognize that that was the wrong word to use and I no longer use it, but you're immediately sort of muddying up the waters. It's important to understand that the real issue here is Trump believes he's above the law. Trump, again, being racially insensitive is not fundamental to thinking about what should happen next to Donald Trump as president of the United States. Realizing that not only does Trump think he's above the law, but that in effect he is, unless Democrats actually do something about enforcing congressional subpoenas, etc., That is actually the most important thing here. Cory Booker is pointing out on Twitter that lynching is an act of terror used to uphold white supremacy. And of course, Cory Booker is not wrong. All of the comments I've seen about the use of the term lynching are essentially correct. But this is Donald Trump, and these are Trumpists that we're dealing with. And there is little to gain from going crazy over Trump's yet again another use of racially insensitive terminology. We are much better off enforcing that this is not a lynching, it is not a witch hunt, it is nothing other than a legal, constitutionally enshrined process for attempting to hold the president accountable, which Donald Trump and the people around him are ignoring, and they may well get away with ignoring unless Democrats do something about it. That's my position on this. We don't minimize Trump's insensitive use of the term lynching, but we focus on the fact that it is no, call it whatever you want, lynching, witch hunt, whatever, but Donald Trump is going to get away with all of it unless Democrats actually start enforcing their constitutionally enshrined powers to investigate the misdeeds of the President of the United States. Now, if you disagree with me, I want to hear from you. If you believe that actually the focus should be not on Trump flouting the law, but on Trump's use of the term lynching, which I concede is disgusting, then let me know why strategically that makes sense. Leave a reply if you're watching on YouTube, send me a tweet at @dpakman, or follow me on Instagram. We will have a post there about this at david.pakman. I will speak to you then and much more about the latest day's news right after this short break. The David Pakman Show is possible thanks to sponsors like Vincero Watches, giving everyone in our audience 15% off your entire order when you go to davidpakman.com/watch. I just got a couple of new watches from these guys, and I love them. I got the Kairos limited release Gold Reserve set, which is very cool. I love the white face, the simple band, and everything about it. It's a perfect size for my wrist. Really great choice. I also picked out the Vincero Bellwether in silver and white. And what I love about this one, number one, the Roman numeral at the top of the face. The white face is great. This is a chronograph model, and I love the blue leather band. It's just a really nice looking watch. Everybody who sees me wear this one always asks about it. What I like about Vincero as a watch brand is you're getting quality, and you're getting a watch where it's clear as soon as you open the box that a lot of care and artisanship went into the design and the way that the watch is put together. I'm not interested in paying thousands of dollars for a watch when I can get one that's reasonably priced and looks just as nice and has terrific build quality. And that's exactly what Vincero is in the business of doing, putting a ton of craftsmanship into their watches, making them available for $150, $200. You really can't go wrong. Check them out at davidpakman.com/watch. Support the people who support our show, and you'll save 15% when you use that link.